Hi, this is Hunter Bina from DevilsDigest.com. I'm over here with staff writer Jordan Kay at the T-Mobile Arena at Las Vegas after Arizona State lost in the Pac-12 tournament semifinals, 79-75 in overtime to Oregon. And Jordan, lots to unpack over here at 2 o'clock in the morning in Las Vegas, even though if you're going to be up this late in any city in the United States, might as well be this one. But when you look at the starting lineup that Arizona State had, Daquan Lake, Romello White, and Zylan Cheatham, obviously trying to combat the length that Oregon presented. The last game in Eugene, the only game that Arizona State lost in the last 7 contests, was a game that Oregon absolutely dominated the boards. I don't know if that move backfired on ASU as much as the injury to Remy Martin. In my opinion, Jordan, if anybody needed any other reminder that Remy Martin is the heart and soul of this team, arguably the MVP. His groin injury played a huge part really from the tip-off until the final buzzer.
Yeah, when you look at the lineup, and I agree it was to combat Oregon's length and their athleticism, but when you look at it, it was only on the court for a very small amount of time. I think it was 2 or 3 minutes, and Rob Edwards subbed in for Daquan Lake, and so it was an experiment. Didn't really work out, but it didn't hurt him too bad. As you mentioned, the Remy Martin injury, which occurred, he said, right around the 18-minute mark of the first half. So that's 2 minutes into the game. I believe it was about 4 or 5 minutes when he was actually pulled out of the game. He went into the locker room with trainer John Anderson. Apparently, they were doing some stretches for the groin, trying to hit some pressure points in there. And then, yeah, he was kind of on the stationary bike for a lot of the game and then had to go and hobble around the court for the majority of it. He didn't look the same. And with a guy like that, some people can fight through that injury or make it work a little bit, but he relies so much on his speed and his elusiveness and all that different stuff that when he's not 100% able to run, it's just not going to be the same guy.
Yeah, and sure enough, at the 12:22 mark of the first half, Arizona State was already down by 12 points. They were able to claw their way somewhat and in the first half and only went to the locker room with a 7-point deficit. And look, we saw many times before, not only this year, but really under Bobby Hurley's tenure in Tempe, that Arizona State does a pretty good job of coming back from halftime deficits. Actually did it 21 times prior to tonight. 22 in Las Vegas means a bust, and number 22 did not happen for Arizona State, even though they started the second half, shot out of a cannon, played excellent defense. Oregon shot 8%, 1 of 11 from the field to start the second half. Arizona State really seemed to have the game in hand for most of that period, led by as many as 9 points. But Oregon really was able, obviously, to claw the way back and bring the game into overtime. What did you see in the second half as far as the good and the bad that Arizona State presented over there?
We'll start with the good. I think the best thing that ASU did was they were able to get the ball down low to Romello White and Zylan Cheatham. And that might not sound like a huge task, but Oregon plays a really good zone because, like you mentioned, they have so many athletes, so many guys with long arms. So the fact that they were able to get the ball to Cheatham and to White more, and a lot of that stemmed from because Martin was injured, you just saw Zylan Cheatham bringing up the ball a lot more than he ever does. That was able to just let him go right to the hoop. He did that very well. I believe they had a pretty good share of their points in the second half. So that was the good. Also, when Remy Martin and Rob Edwards are hitting a few threes, that's going to help your cause because, as Martin mentioned, because he was so hobbled, he's not able to get to the hoop as well as he was. So when you look at him and he's settling for these 25-footers and you're going, oh, no. It's like, well, what else do you want him to do? He's not getting to the hoop. So there's that. And Rob Edwards had 2 huge step-back threes and really put some moves on beyond the arc. That was the good. The bad was ASU had 14 turnovers in this game. A lot of them came because they couldn't break the press. And Oregon's playing this really good zone press that really doesn't even trap guys in the corner, but makes it tough for anyone to even throw in the ball because they have kind of rovers like that. And without Martin being 100%, usually you could just hand the ball off to Martin. He just runs right down the court, no big deal. They couldn't do that. When you have young guys like not Rob Edwards, but when Lou Dort's throwing in the ball or gets a pass, he's just chucking the ball across the court. sometimes I don't know who they're going to, and that's what really killed ASU. When you have those dumb turnovers like that, and then they just lead to easy points for Oregon. That's how a team claws back from a huge deficit. Stupid things like that. That's where I think the majority of ASU's problems stem from.
And two stats to point out, we knew that Oregon was going to present, like you said, a lot of problems with their length. And on the boards, it did manifest itself, maybe not in a horrible way, so to speak, but the Ducks did end the game with a 38-37 slim rebound lead. I think the bigger number in that is that Oregon had 16 offensive rebounds. ASU only had 11. And I think a lot of possessions where they were able to keep alive when they needed to claw their way back. And even in overtime, obviously really essentially putting the game away, even though Arizona State mounted a little comeback. Free throw shooting, obviously that's an issue that Arizona State has been facing for a good majority of their games, despite a very good record. In the second half, shot only 15 out of 21. Maybe not a horrible percentage, but obviously in a game like this tonight, that definitely made quite the difference, to say the least. So here we are, a couple days before, really maybe more like 24 hours before Selection Sunday. Our resident bracketologist, Jeff Griffith, stayed back home in the Valley, but did an excellent job updating us really throughout the last few days about Arizona State's chances and really just other teams that, like Arizona State, whether they're on the bubble, on the right side of the bubble, or squarely on the bubble. So according to Jeff Griffith, Arizona State is still a team that is going to be on the 11th seed line at worst. There's four teams to look out for, in case you haven't seen my tweet from earlier today. Oregon, obviously, if they win tomorrow, or I should say later on today, against Washington, when winning the Pac-12 championship, that could create a problem for Arizona State. San Diego State is another team we want to look out for. Wichita/Memphis, two other teams we want to look at, and Bowling Green. But really just putting all that aside, I mean, maybe a lot of dominoes need to fall for Arizona State to be making that return trip to Dayton, which you and I just yesterday thought that maybe that was very unlikely. But in your mind, is there any reason really for Arizona State fans to really dread Selection Sunday again, assuming that nothing too crazy does happen?
I don't think so, and I'm no Jeff Griffith with the bracketology, but when you look at ASU's wins and the run that the selection committee has had in terms of picking teams that have really good wins over teams with some maybe other better metrics, but their wins aren't as good, that sets up really well for ASU. And to think that a win over a really good Oregon team who might be going to the tournament is going to be something that's going to deter ASU from getting in, I kind of find that hard to believe. They have very good wins. Their net's not great. They're not super great in the KenPom, but they still have those wins, and they have a 22-win record. Stuff like that, I really think they're going to get in with that. I don't think there's a reason to worry. I would not be shocked if Jeff's right with the 11th seed. And, yeah, to think that they would be going back to Dayton for a second year, a lot of things would have to happen.
And Arizona State has 11 quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 wins. That's something that Bobby Hurley has mentioned a lot the last couple of weeks. And he's obviously hoping that the committee would take a look at that, and if they do, I think Arizona State really could end up as an 11th seed, not make a return to Dayton. And I think one very important aspect that maybe isn't being talked a lot about, you want Remy Martin to be healthy. And if you're playing at Dayton on Tuesday, I don't know how much in terms of feasibility that can take place. But now if you're playing on Thursday, let alone on Friday as your first game in the NCAA tournament, that gives Remy Martin, in my opinion, ample time to be healthy, and Bobby Hurley did expect Remy Martin regardless to be healthy. But again, playing on Tuesday versus playing on Thursday and Friday can make a lot of difference. So with Arizona State basketball, just like this time last year, nothing really is coming easy, but we'll wait like everybody else on Selection Sunday to see when and where Arizona State will play. For Jordan K, this is Hoder Bino reporting from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and we will talk to you right after Selection Sunday.